Most people spend their lives explaining themselves, why they choose a certain path, why they think differently, why they don't follow the crowd. But the more you try to justify your choices, the more power you hand over to others. When you constantly seek to prove you're not wrong, you unknowingly wait for their approval. Real change begins the moment you understand that you were never meant to convince everyone. When you stop defending every step you take, life becomes lighter. People's opinions no longer sit on your shoulders like heavy stones. You begin to act from clarity instead of fear. Discipline grows naturally when your mind is no longer busy rehearsing explanations. The world responds differently too. Someone who moves with quiet certainty, not constant justification. The moment you stop explaining yourself, silence becomes your strength. You no longer chase validation that never mattered. Your decisions become grounded, not reactive. People sense this shift. Your confidence grows from the inside, not borrowed from praise. The more you trust your own direction, the less you depend on anyone to confirm it. Every time you justify your intentions, you give others the power to shape your identity. But when you stop, something changes. You reclaim your energy. Choices become cleaner, boundaries clearer, self-respect rests quietly. Not everyone will understand your path, and they don't need to. You walk forward because it feels right, not because it's approved. You'll notice who stays when you no longer explain your every move. Those who needed control will drift away. Those who value you will adapt. Your silence filters your circle. Real connections don't require endless clarifications. They grow from understanding, not pressure. When you stop defending your journey, you attract people who walk their own. Justifying yourself drains the mind. You rehearse words, soften truths, shrink your desires. But when you decide that your choices don't need permission, your inner voice grows louder. You begin to live in alignment rather than apology. Confidence becomes a quiet rhythm guiding you, replacing the noise of self-doubt. People misunderstand you because they see the world through their own fears. Explaining won't change that, but stepping away from the need to be understood frees you. You begin to create instead of defend. You begin to act instead of argue. The world doesn't reward those who explain, it rewards those who move. When you stop explaining, you break an invisible chain. You step out of a life shaped by others' expectations. Your decisions become expressions of who you are, not who you're told to be. This shift changes everything: your relationships, your habits, your future. You finally start living for yourself. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you're done wasting breath on minds committed to misunderstanding you. Your growth becomes internal. Your actions become your statements. You step forward without needing applause or approval. And, slowly, the world begins to respect the person who no longer begs to be understood. Explaining yourself is often a sign that you doubt yourself. But once clarity replaces doubt, explanations fade naturally. You stop overthinking your path. You stop questioning your right to choose. With every step taken without apology, you become harder to influence, harder to shake, and easier to respect. People may call you distant when you stop explaining, but what they're really seeing is your independence. You no longer bend to fit expectations. You refuse to shrink your decisions. And though some may feel uncomfortable, your life begins to align with your truth rather than their comfort. The world changes its tone when you stop justifying your existence. Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting people's intentions. Those who value you step closer. Those who sought control fall away. You learn that peace isn't found by being understood. It's found by being authentic, even when misunderstood. When you stop explaining, you become unpredictable. Not because you lack direction, but because your direction is now your own. People can no longer manipulate your choices. They cannot guilt you into staying small. You begin to rise quietly, steadily, without permission or apology. You don't owe anyone a map of your growth. You don't need to justify your healing, your dreams, or your distance. When you stop offering explanations, you stop offering excuses. You step fully into your potential, driven by clarity rather than pressure. Your life is not a debate. Not every decision needs to be dissected. The moment you stop explaining, you reclaim the right to evolve privately. Growth becomes something sacred noticed through actions, not announcements. And that is where true transformation begins. Some will think you've changed when you stop explaining. The truth is, you finally return to yourself. You stop bending. You stop performing. You stop seeking permission. This return to authenticity is powerful, even if misunderstood by those who preferred your uncertainty. Explaining yourself keeps you stuck in old versions of you. But the moment you let go, you create space for who you're becoming. Growth requires silence, discipline, and the courage to move without external confirmation. You evolve faster when you stop asking for directions from people who never walked your path. The less you explain, the more energy you save. That energy becomes discipline. That discipline becomes transformation. You realize that self-control is easier when you're not fighting to please others. Your mind sharpens. Your purpose strengthens. Your path becomes yours alone. People respect what they can't easily access. When you stop explaining yourself, you create a quiet strength around you. A calm certainty. A presence that doesn't beg to be liked. You become someone who moves with intention, not insecurity. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Explaining yourself opens doors that should stay closed. When you stop, you protect your peace. You protect your vision. You protect the future you're building, one that doesn't need to be justified to anyone. Those who truly care will understand your silence. They won't demand explanations. They won't pressure you into revealing what you're not ready to share. Silence becomes a boundary, one that separates genuine connections from conditional ones. When you stop explaining, you start observing. An observation gives you clarity. You see who respects your boundaries and who pushes against them. You see who supports your growth and who fears it. Silence becomes a tool for understanding people better. Explaining yourself makes your vision vulnerable to doubt, but staying silent protects it. Your dreams grow stronger when you nurture them quietly. You build momentum in private, and when you finally reveal the results, they speak louder than any explanation ever could. You rise differently when you don't need applause. Silence allows your discipline to sharpen. It allows your focus to become unshakable. Strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply refuses to explain. Your calm becomes intimidating to those who relied on your uncertainty. But your growth requires this shift. To become disciplined, you must value clarity over approval. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving people the blueprint to control you. Your actions become your language. Your growth becomes your proof. You move quietly, and because you no longer announce every step, your progress becomes harder to predict and even harder to stop. Silence sharpens your intuition. When you're not busy explaining your choices, you start listening to your instincts. You begin recognizing what drains you and what strengthens you. Discipline becomes easier because you no longer carry the weight of convincing others to agree with your path. Your future expands when you stop seeking approval. You no longer shrink your dreams to fit people who think small. Instead, you rise toward what feels true. And the more you trust yourself, the more disciplined and directed your energy becomes. Self-belief replaces self-explanation. Some will accuse you of being distant when you stop explaining yourself. That's because your silence removes their influence. They can't shape your decisions anymore. But distance isn't avoidance, it's evolution. You're choosing growth over guilt, purpose over pleasing, and clarity over noise. Your discipline strengthens when you stop defending your choices. You no longer waste mental energy on arguments that lead nowhere. Instead, you invest that energy into habits, actions, and progress. Life feels lighter when you stop carrying people's expectations on your back. You can't build a strong life while constantly trying to be understood. Letting go of explanations gives you freedom to focus. Focus creates direction. Direction creates discipline. And discipline creates transformation. This is how silence becomes a tool, not a weakness. The right people don't need explanations. They recognize your growth, respect your boundaries, and support your silence. The wrong people demand reasons because they fear losing access to you. Your silence reveals the truth, who values you and who only valued control. You'll realize people treat you differently when you stop explaining. Your presence becomes firmer. Your boundaries become clearer. You start choosing your peace over pointless conversations. And slowly, discipline becomes part of your identity, not because you force it, but because you protect it. Most explanations come from fear. Fear of being judged, rejected, or misunderstood. But when you stop explaining, you stop living for fear. You begin living for truth. Discipline grows naturally in a mind no longer busy defending itself. Your silence becomes your grounding. Some people misunderstand your silence as weakness, but silence is often the beginning of strength. You save your words for actions. You let your consistency speak. And the more you focus inward, the more your outer life transforms. Quiet growth is still growth, often the most powerful kind. The less you explain, the more you realize how much of your life was shaped by others' expectations. And with that realization comes liberation. Discipline becomes easier because your decisions come from your values, not the opinions surrounding you. You begin living with intentio. When you stop explaining, you start evolving. You break habits built on pleasing others. You build habits rooted in self-respect. You stop waiting for permission to change. You simply change. And this shift becomes the foundation of a disciplined, meaningful life. Your silence teaches people how to treat you. You no longer accept pressure disguised as concern. You no longer bend to avoid judgment. You no longer justify your boundaries. You live with clarity, and this clarity fuels a deeper, stronger level of discipline and purpose. The world moves differently when your actions are intentional and your explanations are minimal. You rise quietly. You improve quietly. You build quietly. And because you are no longer distracted by the need to be understood, your growth becomes unstoppable, driven by discipline, guided by purpose. Growth begins the moment you stop asking for permission to live your own life. Your silence is not emptiness, it is strength. Strength to choose your path. Strength to protect your peace. Strength to build without the noise of opinions. Remember this. You owe the world your authenticity, not your explanations. Walk forward with quiet confidence. Let your discipline speak louder than your words. Your new life starts when you choose yourself.